I don't know about you guys, but I've been getting lots of projects done that have been on my honey-do list for a long time. One of them is finding a lampshade for this lamp. So this lamp is a great little story. I was up in Port Angeles, Washington with my family, and I found it at a flea market. It was 40 bucks. There was a pair of them. I dragged them all the way home, thinking I was stupid for it. Then I went to New York on a business trip. I saw the same lamp in a window for $300. Jackpot! As I'm picking out the shade, I want this to not be a traditional lamp. It's a very traditional base, and I want to pair it with a modern lamp, which is always a good tip for at home. Pair traditional with modern, modern with traditional, to keep things sort of well-rounded. I thought this would be a great time to share with you all some of those rules about picking a lampshade and which rules you should and should not break. Here's a simple urn lamp. You've got the base, the socket, and the heart, which is where the lampshade attaches. What you always want to do is know the height of your full lamp. This one's about 36 inches. You want to know the height to the socket, 23, and you also want to know the diameter. This diameter is 10. So once you know those dimensions, you want to think about the shape of the lampshade. Most lamps, as a general rule, to be safe, copy the shape of your base. If you have a round lamp, get a round shade. Square lamp, get a square shade. Oval lamp, oval shade. That way you know you won't go wrong. Now let's talk about the shade itself. When you're ordering a shade, going to a store or ordering it online, you need to know the measurements, and it can be a little tricky. There's the top diameter, it's pretty straightforward. There's the bottom diameter, also straightforward, but it gets a little tricky with the height. When they list the height of lamp, it's not the straight height like this. It's actually the height at a slant. The more tapered your lampshade, the more of a variance this is going to be. I know many people that have ordered lampshade online were shocked at the size because they weren't measuring on an angle. All right, now we know all the nuts and bolts of how to measure. Now let's go over the very traditional rules. The rules have always been the width of the bottom of your shade should be twice the width of your lamp. So this was 10 inches, we should have a 20-inch lampshade. As far as the height, you should have 1/3 lampshade, 2/3 lamp. So this is 36 inches, so we want around a 12-inch lampshade. Give or take a couple inches, you don't have to be totally exact. That is basically what I have here. Not bad looking, very safe, very traditional, your classic lamp. Now, when you're dealing with other types of lamps like candlestick or balustrade lamps, it gets a little tricky. So let me show you some of the rules around that. This is a candlestick lamp because the base looks like a candlestick, also known as a balustrade lamp. Now this, at the widest point of the lamp itself, is about 3.5 inches. A 7-inch lampshade is going to look ridiculous. So how do you decide on the width of something like this? What you want to do is find the height to the socket. This is 20 inches. And you just want to make sure that your shade is 20 inches or smaller. Now as far as the height, remember that rule of 1/3 and 2/3? If you want your lamp to look a little bit more modern, increase that. You can go all the way from that 33% all the way up to 50%. So you can take the height of this, which is 26 inches, and you have up to a 13-inch lampshade. I've got a 19-inch lampshade. Remember our max was 20 inches, so that's going to work. And the height here, 12 inches. So that's going to get us closer to that 50% mark as opposed to the 1/3 height. It still looks in proportion, but the slightly larger lampshade makes it look more modern. So now that we've got those rules, let's bring back my flea market find and get just the right shade for it. So the height of my lamp is 32 inches. So if I want to push that 50% mark, I want a 16-inch high lampshade. This, measuring on the angle again, is 16 inches. Now that original lamp that I showed you had the tapered shade, which is very traditional. If you go very modern, you get a barrel shape, which has the completely straight sides. To me, that gets a little too modern, and also, interesting note, they're very expensive because they can't nest when they get shipped to you. A good option is a tapered barrel. It's not angled like the tapered shade, but it's not fully up and down. So that's going to give it also a modern feel. So voila, my $40 flea market lamp looks just as good as this $300 New York